I'm Claudia Catania, and you're listening to Playing on Air. You are about to hear The Helpers by Cusi Cram, playwright of A Lifetime Burning, TV writer for Arthur, The Octonauts, and The Big Sea. It features Jane Alexander, Tony winner for The Great White Hope, multiple Emmy Award winner, and former head of the National Endowment for the Arts. And Peter Jacobson, best known for his work on TV's House MD. The Helpers is directed by Mimi O'Donnell, executive director of scripted content at Gimlet Media, and formerly of Labyrinth Theater Company. It is winter in New York City. An older woman sits alone on a bench in a small park in the West Village, talking to no one, it seems. She looks at her watch and then notices someone in the distance approaching.
Typical. Do you see that, Bijou? Do you? Here he comes bounding like some ridiculous puppy, holding 2 cups of nonsense coffee. If you want to do something nice for the person you treated like trash, you don't get them the beverage of your choice. I'm a tea drinker, not because I like tea. Bijou, why do I drink tea again? Doesn't matter, it's the principle, it's what's left.
Dr. Friedman.
Hello, Nate.
You look great, just great.
You look the same.
I'm sorry I'm late. I was looking for a place that had Lady Grey tea. That's what you drink, right?
I'm more of a coffee drinker now.
Oh, I can...
It's fine.
No trouble.
Honestly.
There's a place on Hudson.
Tea
or that,
is fine.
That cafe near Bank.
I don't have all day, Nate.
I didn't assume.
When you retire, you join all kinds of groups, which take up much more time than your job did. I have a book group this afternoon, and I haven't finished the book. It's enormous and tedious, something about a finch. So tea is fine.
It was just so mysterious.
What?
The Lady Grey. Mysterious isn't the right word. Exotic, specific. A little bit feminist.
A little bit feminist? I've never done anything a little bit feminist in my entire life.
What I meant was, you didn't drink Earl Grey during our sessions. You drank Lady Grey.
Oh, I see.
So why not Earl?
No idea.
Here you go. Sorry, it's tea. It's just... never mind. It's just a session is so short, and you're not there to talk about tea choices or office decoration, but you notice those things. You notice them and make assumptions, make up stories.
I found the stories I make up about people to be much more interesting than the truth.
Yeah, the truth can be pretty anticlimactic.
My first therapist had these elaborate African masks on the wall in his office. I assumed he had a real connection to Africa, that maybe he had done some sort of field work there or been in the Peace Corps before he went to graduate school. And then Morty and I went to Kenya, and I was very moved by the whole trip, and I came back and I said something like, "Well, Dr. Schultz, you of course understand the inherent complications of the African peninsula." And he asked me why I thought that, and I pointed to the wall of masks, and he laughed and laughed. He told me his decorator bought the masks at a flea market in Poughkeepsie. He'd never been to Africa, had no plans to go there. In fact, he hated traveling. And then I wondered what kind of a therapist gets a decorator to do his office. Then I fired him.
Wow.
And I hung some masks up in my office, masks that I had bought myself at an open-air market in Mombasa.
I remember them. Tufts of straw hair. One was super judgmental. It reminded me of my mom. Come to think of it, they were pretty terrifying.
Exactly. Figuring out who you are isn't pleasant, and you shouldn't feel too comfortable doing it.
Dr. Friedman?
How's Paloma?
Patricia. I would really love...
It's rude not to answer a question, Nate.
I know, but...
It's okay to talk about spouses, weather, and hobbies. Not everything has to be pulled from your guts, like a sacrificial offering to the gods.
Is that what I do?
I didn't say that.
Tell me.
Please, Nate.
I unload too much too soon?
Yes.
And it's irksome?
Yes, I suppose it is.
Good to know.
I didn't mean to...
No, Dr. Friedman, I'm so grateful for your honesty.
What I meant to say is we're not on the clock. I have that bird book to read, but it can wait.
Great.
Good.
I meant what I said.
About what?
That I appreciate your brutal honesty.
Brutal?
Most people are liars, Dr. Friedman. For example, recently I was fired.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Actually, it was a good thing. A great thing.
You always were a bit conflicted about teaching.
Not anymore. Love it. Really. I'm so grateful to have a profession that's not evil or mind-numbing. Anyway, I tried to get the principal to lay out what I had done wrong. I wanted a list of my infringements, so I can be better. I want to be better at teaching, really at everything, at life. I want to be better at life. The lame-ass jerk clammed up. He talked in circles about how change is good and necessary. He spouted so many cliches, it made the Hallmark card he gave me seem like a font of profundity.
He gave you a "you're fired" card?
It was more of a "we'll miss you" card. All the teachers signed it. It felt like I was dead or dying or moving to Oregon.
How did Patricia take all of this? She's a baker, right?
A chef. She was cool about it. Understood how it was ultimately a good thing.
Good for her.
She has a restaurant now. She's great. Doing great. We're not together anymore, but we're great. She's great. The restaurant really took off. Tapas. People love those small plates.
Never enough for me.
I've come to see the beauty in the small.
The words small plate and share bring me down.
The ordering is an art.
I don't go out to a restaurant for a snack.
Tapas aren't snacks, exactly.
But they're not a meal either.
I mean, they kind of are.
I've never been a nibbler.
You have to pick the right variety of dishes, the balance of meats.
Endless hors d'oeuvres, not my thing.
Tapas aren't hors d'oeuvres, exactly.
Well, they seem like hors d'oeuvres to me.
Okay. Whatever you do, don't go to Patricia's restaurant. You'll hate it. Anyway, Patricia, we're doing so much better. She's seeing someone new. He seems like a good guy. He does something with brands on the web. He did the brand for the restaurant, and I guess it worked for the restaurant, and it worked for her. We didn't work.
It was never easy, as I recall.
It was too hard. We're friends now. Not him and me, but me and Patricia. I could be friends with him one day. Maybe not. I'm seeing someone. It's very new. I don't want to jinx it. She is a very pure person.
No one's a very pure person.
I don't want to jinx it.
If you talk about her, she might disappear.
She's very dear. So dear to me. That's all.
I've never heard you talk about a woman like that.
Like what?
You sound reverent.
And that's bad?
Different.
She's different.
You thought Patricia was different.
I was lying. How's Mort?
Dead. He's very dead.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. When did he...
A year ago now, or maybe 2.
I'm sorry. That must be...
Well, it was easier than I thought it would be.
Oh.
I miss him, of course.
Of course.
I thought I would feel more devastated. Sometimes I feel a little guilty about that.
You always said feelings are feelings. You can't feel bad for having or not having them.
I'm not sure I said that.
And you said something like that.
Doubtful.
I mean, it was smarter, more eloquent, more Lady Grey. Was he sick a long time? With my father, there was a certain relief.
Went right away. Massive heart attack, which was wonderful. I mean, it wasn't wonderful, but you know what I mean. He didn't have a decline. Aging isn't that bad, but declining sucks.
Finish with your tea? I'll find a garbage can.
Thanks. I know what you're thinking, Bijou. It wasn't the plan. I'm telling him too much. Letting the truth slip out like a burp. I need to show less. Be above the fray. But I feel something for him. It's a little repellent, a little intimate. It belongs to the good old days that weren't so good. You know that. I know that, but no one else does. I can't feel my feet.
Finding a garbage can these days is almost as hard as finding a payphone.
Are you still in the neighborhood?
Nope, I'm living in Queens.
Oh.
I love it. Rego Park.
Oh, I've never been.
Huge apartment.
Good for you.
20 minutes to Midtown, little longer to the Village.
Everyone talks about Queens these days like it's Paris in the 20s.
Dr. Friedman.
They say more snow. I always feel the snow in my left ankle.
I tried to chat, be polite.
My ankle says snow.
But I can't pretend to be in an old coward play anymore.
That cloud looks like Marilyn Monroe. Actually, it looks like Oprah Winfrey. That cloud should go on a diet. Actually, clouds are one of the few things in life that are supposed to be plump. Clouds and babies. Soon they'll be putting babies and clouds on juice cleanses.
I'm worried about you, Dr. Friedman.
You're the one who's unemployed, divorced, and living in upstate Queens.
I'm fine.
No, you're not. You're a complete mess.
Just let me apologize.
You offer an apology, Nate. You don't shove it down someone's throat like an emergency tracheotomy.
Okay, I'm offering.
Declined. I'm going. Thanks for the tea.
I saw you talking to yourself in Zabar's, Dr. Friedman. People were watching, saying things. Who were you talking to? Who?
You can't do this. 15 years? 15 years of sessions? All the girlfriends? The drinking and heartache? The mother issues? Grad school and boring public school politics? And one day you don't show up. Nothing, no call, no card, no answered phone calls, just an unpaid bill. I am a person, Nate. A person. I'm not some receptacle.
I didn't think you would ever let me go, Dr. Friedman.
But you never even brought it up. There's a process, a protocol for termination.
It was unforgivable and selfish, and you're entitled to ignore me for the rest of my time here on Earth, but I'm not going to stop trying to get you to forgive me, Dr. Friedman. Because you gave me a lot, a ton. You changed me, like restructured my DNA. And recently, well, I guess I've realized how impossible it is to help people, to help them in a real way, help them become a better version of themselves. That's what we got, right? The prospect of improvement, and you did that for me. Gave me something that made me more whole, more something, and I didn't know it while it was happening. I wasn't sure, but I am now, and I am so grateful. That kind of gift should be repaid, honored. So, Dr. Friedman, you probably have a million smart therapist friends, but I don't want you to be the old lady talking to the pineapples and Zabars. I'm annoying, but I'm here.
You are annoying.
I know.
I miss my cat. Not Morty.
Okay.
I spent my whole life listening, but Bijou let me talk. She was supposed to be Morty's cat, but she was mine from day one. Sometimes I feel like all my tenderness went into my work, but not with Bijou. I could have brushed her for days. I ordered her special health food from Sweden. I gave her secret birthday parties and half birthday parties. I feel her. Not always, but if I talk enough and I'm very honest, because Bijou would have none of my stiff upper lip, she comes. I'm not crazy. I just miss my dead cat.
I understand.
No, you don't.
I'm not a cat person per se, but I feel like I've spent my whole life missing things. Like on Saturday morning, I miss Friday night. During the main course, I miss the possibility of an appetizer. So why not call me when you miss Bijou? Because chances are I'll be missing something too.
Can I still talk to her? Sometimes.
Maybe not in supermarkets or anywhere with other people. Unless, of course, they're talking to themselves too, then all bets are off. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
She was gray.
Pretty.
Her nickname was Lady Gray.
Of course.
Of course.
You've just heard The Helpers, written by Cusi Cram and directed by Mimi O'Donnell. It featured Jane Alexander as Jane and Peter Jacobson as Nate. Thank you all for staying to talk. We have Jane Alexander, who played Jane.
I know, Cusi wrote it. She knows my life.
Yeah, clearly written for Jane.
Indeed, I didn't know.
Yeah. And Peter Jacobson, who played Nate.
My middle name is Nate, actually.
There you go.
It's not. But
Cusi Cram, our playwright, of course, and Mimi O'Donnell, our director. Cusi Cram. I love the name Cusi. Where does it come from?
Nothing to do with it. It's an Inca name. I'm half Bolivian, so my mother gave me a Bolivian name. It means happy in Quechua, the language of the Incas. Yeah, it's a lot to live up to.
Cusi, one thing your play The Helpers deals with is Jane missing her beloved cat, Bijou. Can you talk about why you chose a cat?
Well, it's sort of interesting because I have cats. I love cats. I love all animals very much, probably more than people. And I was thinking a lot about death at the time, but I didn't want to think about dead people. So I started thinking about, like, what if my cats died and how I would feel. And then in the interim, one of my beloved cats did die. So yes, and it's interesting. We're getting a new cat tomorrow. So there's something like it's all coming round in some weird way. But yeah, I think I'm also interested. I have, where people's tenderness comes out in life. And I've found sometimes difficult people are often much easier with animals. Yeah. And I find that very moving. I don't know what that is, people who can be tender unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why I was thinking about it.
Are any others of you animal people? And how have you coped with the loss of a pet?
Well, I'm totally. My new book is Wild Things, Wild Places, about my 40-year travels globally with field biologists and birds and wildlife. So that's my passion. But I've never been without a dog in my life.
Really?
I'm just crazy about animals. I'm like you.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of your new book?
Wild Things, Wild Places.
Cusi, would you agree this play recognizes people who help others both professionally and empathetically? And are there people in your life that you wish you had thanked?
Oh, yeah. Both people I wish I'd thanked, and I wish I had helped when I knew they were in trouble, but somehow felt not able to cross some divide. I think both asking for help and helping others requires great courage, and so yeah, and it's something I'm interested in. So I there's that, and then there's I've definitely had therapists, and some who I've exited treatment with in perhaps not the most kind of ways. So
Nate?
Oh my goodness, this will play on the radio and my therapist will hear it as an apology. So maybe that's what it is.
The purpose of this whole thing? Wasn't that why you wrote
No. But yeah, I guess there was something in that. But yeah, I think the people, it's interesting, both the professionals who help us, and then just how strange people can help you and who comes to your aid when you need it and it's unexpected. I think it can be surprising. So and I think it's why we're here, and I think even particularly I put it in New York because I feel we get so kind of in our lives and in our schedules that it sometimes is hard to just kind of stop and say, I gotta take care of this and do it. And so in some ways, I think it was a note to myself to remember to do that. That's why that's really why we're here. So
on the subject of extending help, actress Jane Alexander, you were appointed chair of the federal agency designed to support the arts, the NEA. You left a steady and illustrious career in the arts to helm the National Endowment of the Arts. Was it a culture shock?
Washington, politics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's not ever forget that politics is all about compromise. and finding some solutions that way. And I think that in our profession as theater people, film people, actors, directors, writers, we're looking for some kind of path that is a truthful path. It's just a very different set of problems.
Was it just the nature of politics that was your greatest challenge then?
That we're going to gut the NEA. Yeah.
Well, that is connected to politics in the way. I mean, if there's not political will to support the arts.
There was plenty of, there was certainly will across the country. I went across the country to all 50 states within 13 months, met with people everywhere. They all loved the NEA. It wasn't about that. It was about a very small cohort that was saying there were grants that we were given that were sacrilegious or salacious in one way or another, which was also a very small percentage. So what are we talking about? And it was the American people that finally, said, no, why are you getting rid of this? You're crazy, you politicians. Mm-hmm. So people love the arts.
Yeah. Peter Jacobson and everybody, what have you noticed about yourself and other actors in terms of finding or extracting humor in a script?
One of the things I love most about being an actor is you look at a script and there's a lot of what at first, and it doesn't really, and that's not in any way a criticism of the writing. I think it's just a natural state. You want to get to the point where you're inside it. So of course, the first time you look at it, you're outside it, and some stuff really feels like it makes no sense, and some scripts are a little more accessible, some aren't, and one doesn't necessarily indicate that it's going to be better or not. And then what happened today was there was a fair amount of for me on this, and yet, which is often the case. Well, when the writing is great, and that really is the case here, 2 hours later you're in it in a deeper way than you had really thought. I really had thought. I didn't look at it and say, oh, there's no way I can get in there. I just wasn't sure. And then sure enough, this had layers that I did not anticipate, and that comedy, it's a different science, but just generally that's what I just love that about this piece. It was just all of a sudden that little things opened up here and there, and we were playing things that I really did not see at first. So
it's the fun of it.
Yeah, that's it.
Director Mimi O'Donnell, earlier in your career, you were a costume designer.
Yes.
Could you?
That's how I know you.
That's how you know.
Could you pretend that you were designing this short play for the stage and give us an example of how your designer mind would navigate costume choices for these two characters?
Yeah, I think as a costume designer, it's always about, I always started by answering questions of, what's the weather? She says snow. So there's an indication of what time of year it is. And then I think the questions are what people, how the clothes can either help the actors say what mood they're in. So maybe Jane, I think there's a scarf actually in the stage direction. So maybe she's a little more bundled up and, protective. And that maybe Nate comes in a little more open. Maybe he's in a casual. So, so it starts, you see initially, I think every day when people get dressed, you kind of think of how you're going out into the world, whether it's very conscious or not conscious. So when you deal with contemporary costumes, I sort of try to think of literally what's in your wardrobe and how would you approach this day? And is it something you want to impress someone, or you want to downplay, or you want to seem open or happy, so you're wearing colors? And so I think that's, answer some questions initially first of how people are thinking about who they're going to meet or the scene they're entering. Yeah. And sometimes it's, doing the opposite of maybe how they are emotionally, and that could be interesting if an actor needs to be vulnerable and they're covered up, or they're covered up and they have to be the opposite. So, yeah.
How much of that choice would be the director's and how much would it be yours?
I think every director works differently. Ultimately, I always felt like the actor has to wear it. So it's not about being comfortable, because I don't think acting is ever comfortable. But I think the costume can help you find who you are. And sometimes things that I would find actors resisting were actually the things that they needed to wear. and it took a little bit to get them there. I always felt like being a costume designer was a little bit of being a therapist because everybody comes in with a body that they have thoughts about. And so you need a lot of patience, and you really have to listen and find out. Sometimes you have to reveal a part of your body that normally you'd like to cover as a person in the world. And then on stage, you have to show it. So it's a tender. I always felt like the costume area was very tender and kind of my job. I always felt like was to be supportive and to get the actor to the place they needed to get.
I find the fitting is always really fascinating for me because it's the point where it usually comes later in the process and you're sort of getting there in terms of the character, but it always sort of flares up for me what's me and what's the character at an important juncture, because I'm always like, I wouldn't want to wear little things that bother me, like I hit something up on my neck as Peter, but so instinctively I'm always like, I don't want, and then it's the moment I think, okay, but what does this character actually want? I have to. It forces me to separate the two, which is sort of obvious, but I always notice that very well.
There you are in a yellow turtleneck.
Opening night.
It's always the most important thing to me, surprisingly. I mean, first of all, the script is the most important thing, and the director certainly weighs in. But for me, if my costume isn't right, everything's out the window. I get so distressed. And I still, to this day, all my life, if I ever have a nightmare, it's that I'm going on stage only with a sheet.
Oh, what an interesting twist on the actor's nightmare, Jane Alexander. You just can't. It's like a toga kind of thing.
I don't have a costume, so they hand me a sheet.
Wow!
And it's not about the lines, because for me, it's only ever about the lines.
Sheet.
Wow! How unique!
Blank,
Blank, yeah.
That's a scary one.
That just speaks so ultimately to the depth of your talent and genius. I gotta say, I've always thought you're an unbelievable actress, but you're the only actor I know where that's the nightmare. We're all like worried about our freaking lines, and yet it's so much more soul and depth and humanity to that. And it says it all right there. Jane Alexander, ladies and gentlemen.
Way beyond.
Sorry.
And then when you work with a great costume designer, like I had the opportunity to work several times with Fiona Aldrich, who's since passed away, and Anne Roth. You're like, oh my God. So this is what I can.
Yeah.
It gives you your
Yes.
character.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You know this, Mimi.
Yeah.
Well, I always find it as a writer, that element, the questions that designers ask of the character always, it always enriches me and sort of makes me ask questions, about it in a way. I think, because they're going deeper into sort of an area that you might not be thinking about. So for me, it's always fascinating what designers often teach me more about the play than, no offense, directors, but than directors do. I learn a lot. I learn a lot from them in an interesting way.
Well, directors are the fine tuners. Yeah. I couldn't live without directors. I don't mean to.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
But it's we're talking in great respect at the beginning stages of before you even get into rehearsal or just after you go into that fitting room and whatever. Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you all for joining Playing on Air to record Cusi's play, The Helpers, and to stay and chat.
Thank
you.
Oh, thank you.
You've been listening to Playing on Air. Associate producer, Michelle O'Brien. Literary manager, Bonnie Antosh. Theme and play music, Tom Cochan. Recording and sound design by John Kilgore. Playing on Air is distributed by PRX. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can visit us at playingonair.org, where you can discover new shorts and interviews with amazing artists. Subscribe to Playing on Air on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And to help us share great theater with new listeners nationwide, rate and review a show. It's the best way to spread the word. For Playing on Air, I'm your host, Claudia Catania. Thanks for listening.